Sechter Gittin Daf Nun Hey 55. We're going to start from Daf Nun Dalet Amud Beis by the Mishnah. The Mishnah discusses over here. Lahoyo Sikokrim Sikokurikoin Yehuda Baruge Muhammad. There was no Sikokurikoin. Sikokurikoin is like people who kill with a dagger. You know, they have a dagger in their cloak and they kill somebody, and then they in a crowd, and then they blend back into the crowd. That's what the word Sikokurikoin means. But Rashi explains these were killers in Yerushalayim, in Yehuda, that the Jewish people will give them their land in exchange for having this Sikokurikoin not kill them. So there was no Sikokurikoin in Yehuda during the time of war, during the time of Titus's war against Jerusalem. Then when it calmed down, there was no more war. There was Sikokurikoin, people who kill people quietly. This part of the Mishnah doesn't make sense, and let's just skip it, and the Gemara is just going to explain what this all means. But anyway, the Sikokurikoin would take somebody's land who wanted his life spared, so they ended up being property owners. So let's say you wanted to buy a property from the Sikokurikoin. So the Mishnah says, Ketzah, Lokach Misikokurikoin, you paid the Sikokurikoin property that he confiscated, so to speak, from a Jewish person, and the Chazar, the Lokach mi Balabayis. And then you turned around and actually bought the same piece of land from the owner, the original owner, because you wanted to cover all bases. You really wanted this piece of property. No matter what, that transaction is nullified, because the whole reason why the original owner acquiesced taking the money is because he didn't want to upset the Sikokurikoin. So that's why he agreed to sell it to you. But really, he doesn't want it to be sold. He still wants his property back, so he can return you the money and keep his land. And he probably feels it's easier to get it back from you. But if you first went to the original owner and says, you know, your land is by the Sikokurikoin, I'm going to buy it from you first, and then the Chazav Ilokach Sikokurikoin, then he purchases from the Sikokurikoin. Oh, so the Balabayas, he actually paid the original owner money, and then he went to pay the Sikokurikoin money. So he double paid, basically. Mekayim, then this transaction is valid. Same idea. A man designated a certain piece of land to be the property for where his wife will collect the ksuba. So somebody wants to buy that piece of property. Lokach mina ish, if he purchased it from the husband, because of a lokach mina ish, and then he purchased it from the wife. So mikhay batal, then this transaction is nullified. Why? Because the whole reason why the wife acquiesced to this transaction is because her husband wanted to sell it, but she really doesn't want to sell it, and therefore that transaction is nullified. And when it comes time to collect from her ksuba, she could actually collect from that piece of land, min ha'isha. But if you first went to the woman and says, listen, I'm buying this piece of land, the lokach. So the Mishnah continues and says that if you actually bought it from the woman first, right, mina isha, and then because of a lokach mina ish, and then you bought that piece of land from the man, so the woman sold it, and then you also bought it from the man. So now, this transaction is valid. So when the husband dies or divorced, she has no right to collect from that piece of land that this person purchased, because you already purchased it from the woman. Zu Mishnah Rishayna. That was the Mishnah Rishayna's opinion regarding Sikokurikoin. So the basically Sikokurikoin situation is that if you have to first get the permission from the owner, and then you can purchase it from the Sikokurikoin. But the Bezdin Shalachareim Amru, but the other Bezdin that came after that first Bezdin, in other words, new halachas, new laws were instituted against these to deal with the Sikokurikoin. They wanted the land to get out of the possessions of the Sikokurikoin, so they didn't require you to go first to the original owner. If you buy from the Sikurikin, and the Sikurikin would sell you at a cheaper price because they stole the property, basically. Noisim Labalam Ravia, that you would give a quarter of the value of the property you would pay a quarter of the value of the property to the original owner, because the Sikurakin sold it to you for 75% of value. The 25% you actually gave it to the Sikurikai. And therefore, you cover all your bases, and now you can keep the property. Aim aside, when did we allow you to buy a property from a Sikurikai? Because the original owner doesn't have the capability, he doesn't have the finances to buy the property back. He gave it to Sikurikin to save his life, and he doesn't have the money to buy it back. But if he has the money to buy it back, so then they have the first rights to buy their own property back from the Sikurakin. Nobody has a right to take it from them. Rebbe Hoishiv Beis Din V'Nimai. Rebbe established a Bezdin, and they paskin. If this land ended by the owners, by the Sikurikan owners, Shneim also Chodesh for 12 months. Nobody did anything for 12 months. A man gave his property to the Sikurakan to save his life, and it stayed in the hands of the Sikurakan. So Kol HaKoidim Lika, anybody who comes to purchase that property, Zocha, it's his land. Aval Noisin Labalam Ravia, he has to give the original owner a quarter of the property, a quarter of the value of this particular land, because at the end of the day, you're getting a very good deal. You're getting it. You're going to pay the Sikurakin 75% of the value, so you should take 25% and give that to the original owner. So the Gemara now is just going to explain the beginning of the Mishnah. Mishnah says, there was no people killing people during the wartime. So the Gemara, and after wartime, people were privately killing people. There was let's call it secret agents. Hashta or KGB. During time of war, there was no secret recon. From when it was peacetime, then there was secret recon. So what does the Mishnah mean? Of course, you would think during war, there's more likely that there were secret agents killing people. Amar Rav Yehuda explained the Mishnah. There was no din sikurikai. During wartime, if a person gave up his property to a sikurikai, the sikurikai owned it outright. It's only when it was not during wartime. If you gave up your property to sikurikai, the owner didn't give it up with his full intention. And therefore, it's not like he gave it to sikurikai willingly, and therefore if somebody purchases it from the Sikurakai, then all these halachas apply, that he has to first consult with the owner first to make sure that he's paid out. The Amar Rabasi explained, Gimel Gzeres Gazru. There were 3 Gzeres, Titus, the one that destroyed the base of Migdash, and there were 3 edicts that he made a Gzera against the Jewish people. Gzeres Akamai. So the first Gzera was, Kol the Loy Koto, whoever does not kill a Jew, Likdiluhu, we will kill him. So that was terrible. So during that time, if someone gave a property to the Sikurakai, he fully gave it over. You could keep it because don't kill me. Mitziyasei, during the middle times, the Gzera was called the Kotel. Whoever would kill a Jew, Leise Arbazize would have to. They would actually be given, let's say, 4 zuzim. So. Or he would get fined for, so it was like a minute amount if you killed a Jew. So again, the first 2 Gzeras, it was really open seasons against the Jewish people. And in order to save themselves, they gave up property to the Sikurikan. And therefore they gave it with their full intentions that the Sikurikan could keep it. So if another Jew comes and buys it, then that other Jew could keep it. But Basraisa, but during the last Gzera, called the Kotel Liktiluhu, if you kill a Jew, then we're going to kill you. So it wasn't open season against the Jews. In fact, there was a judicial system that if a Jew got killed, they would kill the killer. Therefore, the Mishnah explains, Hilcha Kamaiso Mitziyasu, during the first period, or the second period, came in the Kotli, since they could kill a Jew with ease, Agav Unse, because he's forced into a situation, Gomar Umakni, he's 100% giving over, the Jew who's being threatened to be killed is 100% giving over his property to the guy. Basraiser, during the last period, Amre, he's saying like this, I'll give it to the guy. Idna Lishka, let him take my property now, but I'm not really giving it to him with my full heart. Tomorrow I'm going to take him to court to get my property returned. So during that last period of time, there was no other, there was the other people, another Jew had no right to buy the property from the Sikar Karain because the original owner still is hoping to get his property returned. Now the Gemara discusses during the time of Titus and the destruction of the first base of the second base of Mikdash. Rabbi Yochanan says, what is the meaning of this pasuk? Ashrei Adam, b'fachid Talmud. It's praiseworthy as a person who is constantly frightened. Those who harden the heart, they don't get in touch with their inner self, evil bara, something bad will happen to that person. So the Gemara says like this. The truth is, how this comes in is that a person does something. If you get in touch with your inner consciousness, you will see that there is a consequence to your action. And unfortunately, during that period of time, a person called Bar Kamsa did not get in touch with his consequence, with his inner conscious, and he didn't see the consequences of his actions, which led to the destruction of the base of Mikdash. Kamsa ubar Kamsa chav Yerushalayim, because the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, the Yerushalayim was destroyed. Tarnagol v'tarnagoloisa charav tur malka, because of a chicken and a rooster, the mountain of the king was destroyed. That's another story. Asaka the Rizpah, on a panel, because of Asaka the Rizpah, a panel of a wagon, charav beita, the beita was destroyed. Gemara is going to just deal with one story right now. Kamsa ubar Kamsa chav Yerushalayim. Because of the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, the Jerusalem was destroyed, but ultimately the base of Mikdash was destroyed. Now, who Gavra? There was this person, the Rachme Kamsa. He had a friend called Kamsa. Funny name, Kamsa. Kamsa can mean like a stingy person. Anyway, his friend was Kamsa. Ubal Devave, and his enemy was Bar Kamsa, was his son, the son of Kamsa. Aved Suudasa. So he made a party. Amalei l'shamoi. So he said to his attendant, Zil Aisli Kamsa, go bring me my friend Kamsa. Azal Aisli Bar Kamsa. So the son came. And this is the way the Marshal is learning, that the son came. And he thought that his enemy is trying to make up with him and is inviting him to this party. So this Bar Kamsa, who was the enemy of this person, is at this party. Asa Ashkechei the Havayosef. So the host found him that he was sitting. And the host sees Bar Kamsa at his party. Amalei, he says out loud, Michte, he talks to himself in the third person. That's a sign of arrogance. Michte, Ahu Gavra, this person, referring to himself, the host, Bal Devava, Ahu Gavra, he's the enemy of this person. He referring to Bar Kamsa. Then he turns to Bar Kamsa, what are you doing at my party? Get up, point, get out. Amalei, so Bar Kamsa didn't want to be embarrassed. He said, Oil ba'asoi shavacham. Since I came to the party, leave me alone. And I'm going to pay for whatever I eat and drink. Go to Nun Vav Baba Aleph. Amalei, loy, don't. Loy, no. Amalei, I'm not accepting that offer. Amalei, so Bar Kamsa said, I'll give you half the whatever cost you for half the party, I'll pay for. Don't throw me out. Amalei, loy. He said, no, you have to leave now. Amalei. So the man said, Bar Kamsa said, I will pay for the entire party, just don't embarrass me and throw me out. Amalei loy. So the man said, you're my enemy. No, you can't stay at the party. Nakte biyadi, picked him up by his hand, he got him up, and threw him out. Omar, so Bar Kamsa said, there were many rabbis there at the party, and they didn't stand up to of this injustice to me. So then the rabbis agreed with what the man was doing. What I'm going to do is slander the Jewish people to the Roman emperor and cause trouble to the entire Jewish world. I don't think his intention was to lead to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, but it ended up leading to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. How did he slander the Jewish people by the Roman emperor? He somehow got to the Caesar and he said, the Jews are rebelling against you. I'm a Jew, I'm telling you, the Jews are rebelling. So the Caesar said to Bar Kamsa, who told you so? Amalek. So he said to Bar Kamsa said to the Caesar, Shudar le Kurbano, send a sacrifice to the temple, to the second temple. And a goy could bring a carbon to the second base of Mikdash, because it says ish kiyakar carbon, darshan. Even a goy could bring a donation and sacrifice to the base of Mikdash. And so he said, try it, bring a carbon to the base of Mikdash, causes carbon lay, and see if they will sacrifice the animal. Also, so he went, Shadabay Egla Tilsa. So Caesar gave him a very, very expensive calf. Very expensive, a 3rd-year-old calf, a third-born calf. So it was a very expensive animal. As he was bringing, Bar Kamsa was bringing the animal to the base of Mikdash, Shadabe Muma. He actually caused a blemish on this animal, benifs and sign on its lips. The Amrilay other says bedukin shaba'ayin on its eyelid. Now that's not really a blemish. But this is a spot really done have a muma. Jewish people will call that a blemished animal. That's just something on its lip or something on its eyelid. But for a goy, la mumahu, that's not considered a blemish. A blemished animal if it's missing a foot or something like that. But this is such a minor thing, it's okay for a carbon. So really, the halacha is you're not supposed to bring such a carbon. But the rabbis thought that despite that it's a blemish sacrifice, let's bring it up because we want to be at peace with our government, with the Romans. Amalu Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulis. Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulis said, you can't bring it up as a carbon. Yoimru, they will say, Jewish people will say, Bali moving, craven legabe mizbeach. This will cause people to say that though animals that have blemishes can be brought on the mizbeach. We can't make this as a precedent because people will learn from it and they won't know that we're bringing it because we want to remain in harmony with our current government. So they wanted to kill Bar Kamsa, so she didn't return and report back to the Caesar that your sacrifice was not brought. Rabbi Zechariah said, people say, that whoever puts a blemish in Kotship, he will be killed. If you're going to kill Bar Kamsa, people say, why is Bar Kamsa being killed? Because he blemished an animal. And so whoever blemishes a sacrificial animal will be killed. That's not true. So therefore, they let Bar Kamsa return back to the Roman king, the Roman Caesar, and tell him, listen, the Jews decided not to bring your animal that you donated as a sacrifice for the base of Mikdash. This was the wrong decision. Rabbi Yochanan said, the endurance, the savlanut, the patience of Rabbi Zechariah ben Avkulis that he put up with a person like Bar Kamsa, because he didn't act improperly. He should have either brought it as a carbon or actually had Bar Kamsa killed. But he just relaxed, took too much of a relaxed position over here. That caused, this led to the destruction and spacing of our house. The Sarfas had later and destroyed our sanctuary. We got exiled from our land. It's interesting, Rabbi Yochanan seemed to blame Rabbi Zechariah and not Bar Kamsa. So the Caesar set Nero, I guess this is maybe the famous Nero, to attack Jerusalem. Nero. Kikaase, when it's not this famous Nero because we'll see what happened over here. Kikaase, when he came to attack Jerusalem, Shadagil Mizrach Asnaf Lirishlein, Lamarav of Nofalishlein, La Baruchas Hashmaim Asnaf Lo Birishlein. He wanted to, do a test to see if he will be successful. They see that even the kings, despite their great armies, they were afraid of Jerusalem. And so he shot an arrow, and every which direction he was shooting the arrow, it curved towards Jerusalem. So even if he was facing away from Jerusalem in the four areas, it automatically shot the arrow in one direction. It curved towards Jerusalem. So he knew right now he's going to be successful. But Amalela Yanuka, he told the child, tell me a pasuk that you're learning in Cheder. Amalei, so the child said to him, I learned today the Nesatius Nikmosi be'Edom bi'ad Ami Yushalayim. Ba'ami Yisrael. I'm going to take my revenge against the Edom because of what they did to my nation, Jewish people. So that is not a good pasuk, because that says that if he's going to do something against Jerusalem, eventually God will take revenge against him. Omar, he said, God wants to destroy his whole house. Then he wants to wash his hands, so to speak. That's an expression from the Eglah Rufa. You wash your hands on the whole thing, on me. God wants to take revenge against the Jewish people because they deserve it. But he's using me as a pawn. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to get revenge back by God. Arak, he ran away. He just gave up his generalship. And he went. He Gayer became a Jew. And he became a Ger. Rameir came from his family, either from him or his daughter. So therefore, now the Caesar had to send somebody else to replace Nerod. Shaderain alayla Aspasionis Caesar. So he sent Aspasionis Caesar to attack Jerusalem. Asatzar alay Laishani. So he was causing a siege against Jerusalem for 3 years. And the Jews, when you siege a city, though there's no food, no water. There were 3 rich people. There were 3 Jewish, very wealthy people living in Jerusalem. Nakdima, Ben Kalba, Ben Sitzis. And they could have supported the entire Jewish people during the siege for many, many, many years. Nakdima Ben Gurion. Why is a person called Nakdima Ben Gurion? Nakdima means somebody who came out early. The sun shone because of him. There's a story that somehow he made the sun stay in place, so to speak, like Yeshua ben Nun. It's a story in Tainus. Basically, he was a big tzaddik. That's why they call him Nakdima Ben Gurion. Not only was he a tzaddik, but also a very rich person. Ben Kalba Savua. Why was somebody called Ben Kalba Savua? Why was somebody called Ben Kalba Savua? Should call Hanichnos Lebeisoi, anybody who went into his house, Kishu Roiv Kekelif, was hungry like a dog. Yaitse, Kishu Savea, came out satiated. So he's called Ben Kalba. You walk into his house like a dog, Savua, you'll come out satiated. The other one is Ben Tzitzis HaKses. Why is he called Ben Tzitzis HaKses? Shahoiset Tzitotoi Migreres Al Gavik Sosois. He had very, very long tzitzis. I don't know if very long tzitzis. Mar seems to think that having very long tzitzis is some sort of piousness, and his tzitzis was schlepped on the ground on kisosais, on benches, on chairs. So he wore his tzitzis very openly, and that's another wealthy person. Ikidami, others say his name was Ben Tzitzis, so it's not that he had long tzitzis, is that his chair and his tzitzis were schlepping on chairs. His chair was amongst the Roman officers. He had a very high place in government, and yet he still wore his tzitzis. So he wasn't ashamed of being Jewish. So again, there were 3 very wealthy people who lived in Jerusalem at that time during the siege of Aspasionis Caesar, which was already starting to take effect after 3 years. Chad Amalahu once said, I'm going to support all the Jewish people with wheat and barley. I have enough wheat and barley to support the Jewish people. I can give wine, salt, and oil. And one said, I can give firewood. So the one that donated firewood got the most praise from the rabbis. The Rav Chizda Kol Aklide, Rav Chizda was a rich person, and he said, Kol Aklide have a muscle shamoy. He'd give the keys, he trusted his agents and his servants with everything, with all the keys of his property, except from the storehouses of his wood. The Amar Rav Chizda says, on a measure of wheat, you still need 60 measures of wood to make that wheat edible. So the Gemara says, so one provided the wheat and barley, one provided wine, oil, and salt. And these are the basic necessities of life, but you also need firewood. And Havilah, and one provided firewood. And they had enough to survive this siege for 21 years. And if they would have survived that long, I'm sure Rome would have given up and not destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. It would have just been the cost of war would have cost it too much. Continuing on Daf Yomi Havu Bahane Binyoni. There were these people, the zealots, that amongst the Jewish people living in Jerusalem at that time. So, and they were of the opinion that we should go to war, a guerrilla war against the Romans. Amr Lahu Rabbanan, so Rabbanan disagreed with that. They felt that was too risky. So let us make peace with the Romans. So they controlled, these Biryonim, the zealots controlled the going in and out of the city from the Jewish end. So therefore, the rabbi said, let us go and have a diplomatic meeting with the Romans outside, see if we can make peace. These Biryonim, these zealots, did not allow the rabbis to get through, to go out and meet the Romans. Amrulahu, so they said to the rabbis, let us go to war, a guerrilla war against them. That was their idea. Rabbanan said, we're not giving you our blessing for that. You're not going to have siyata d'shmaya. Once the rabbi said you're not going to have siyata d'shmaya, the Biryonim did not feel confident to go against the guerrilla war. So they did something else. In order to get the rabbis to agree that fighting a guerrilla war is the better way to go, they burnt down the storehouses that held the wheat and the barley. So they caused that the Havakafna, there was this great hunger in Jerusalem. The Romans, we were our own worst enemy. And that's what they did. And therefore there was this great hunger in Jerusalem. So the Gemara wants to give you an understanding how great was this hunger. How fast did this hunger take place? So Gemara says, Marsa bas Baisis, there was this very rich lady called Marsa, the daughter of Baisis. She was a very aristocrat, wealthy woman living in Jerusalem. Shadara l'shluchish, she sent her attendant, she told them, go to the store, bring me fine flour. Ada Azul, when he went to the store, is Davan, it was all sold out. Asab Amallah, he came back and said to her, Smida leka chivirasa ika. There's not this fine flour, but there's white flour there. Again, he didn't have the guts enough to buy the cheap flour because he knew his boss would not like it and wouldn't eat it and would be very angry at him. So he went back. Amalei, she said to him, okay, if there's no flour, there's no fine flour, bring me the white flour. The Azel, he's Dabat. He went back to the store, it was all sold out. Also, to Amallah, and he told her, there's no white flour, but there's coarse flour there. Again, he didn't have the courage enough to bring it back without re-asking his boss. Amalei, so Marsa Baspaces, the boss said, Zilaisli, go bring it. Adazli went back to the store, he's Dabat. That was also sold out. So now, there's no coarse flour, but there is barley flour. Go bring me that. The Azul, he went back, his Naban, that was all sold out. Hava Shalita Nisa'ana, she was walking barefoot. Amra, she said, I can't, let me see what's going on. Apit, let me go out, and I'll find, can I find something to eat? Asif la pursa bakara umesa. She ended up stepping into some manure or dung, and because she was such a delicate woman, this caused her such repulsiveness that she died. Kara Allah, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zaki said, that pasuk that it says, Haraka b'chav, Lo'anuga, the soft ones and the most delicate ones of the Jewish people, that never lifted a foot, never had something so repulsive happen to them, by something such small, like something small like that will happen to them, it will cause their own death. That's what's going to happen when God is angry at the Jewish people. Others says, what did actually cause her death? She stepped not into dung, but she stepped into Groigus Rab Tzadok Achla. She stepped into the date that Rab Tzadok would eat. The Isnisa, and this caused her to become repulsed. Umesa, and she died. Why is the date of Rab Tzadok on the floor? A sucked out date of Rab Tzadok. So the Gemara tells us the Rab Tzadok Yosef Arba Shnim B'Tanisa. Before this whole event happened, Rab Tzadok was 40 years fasting. He foresaw that Jerusalem will be destroyed, so he started a fast 40 years prior to the destruction of Jerusalem, so that the Beis Hamikdash would not be destroyed. He became so skinny. When he would eat midi, you could see it from the outside of his body. As he would eat something, you could see the food going down into his stomach. When he was on his way to become back healthy, and apparently he started to become back healthy and give up fasting, not before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, during the siege, and I guess he felt that it was too late already, that it's done. So he started to bring back his health. So how did he bring back his health? When somebody fasts for 40 years, you can't just one day decide to eat a full meal. So he had this program, Baisile Geregus, they would bring him a date, Mayit Spain Muhu, he would suck it out, and throw it away, put it out. Maybe somebody else could take it. I don't know. I don't know why he didn't throw it in the garbage, but he sucked out the date, the juice, and he would leave it. And this is the date that she fell into. And she became repulsed, and she didn't die right away. She died slowly, but this was the catalyst that caused this morsel of spices to die. As he was passing away, she took all the gold and silver that was in her house and threw it into the street. Amra, she said, what do I need it for? This is what it says. They started to throw their money into the courtyard. This is reminiscent of during the early days of the Holocaust. Abba Sikara Reish B'Yoni, back to the story about the siege. Abba Sikara Reish B'Yoni de Yerushalayim, the head of the zealots of Jerusalem, his name was Abba Sikara, and he happened to be Bar Achte de Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was a nephew of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, son of his sisters. Shalachle. So Abba Sikara sent to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai sent to Abba Sikara, Tobit Sin al Gabay. I need to have a secret meeting with you. So Abba Sikara came. Amalu, he said like to his, Ad Amos Aviti say Hachi, Vakatisli Alma Bakafna. How long are you going to keep this going? And you're going to kill us with hunger. We need to have a diplomatic conversation with the Romans to end this. Amalei, so Abba Sikra said, even though I'm the head, I'm not really the head of this group. My Ayavid, I can't do anything about it. I can't arrange a meeting with you and the Roman emperor, the Roman general in charge of the siege. The Amini Lach Midi, if I tell my friends that I want to join your group, Katlili, they will kill me. So Amalei, so Rabbi Yochanan said, Chazili Dekanta, try to arrange a secret plan, Lidini, the Apik, I should be able to go out. After the Habat Salaputa, I could possibly save and do some small saving to at least mitigate what's happened so far. Amalei, so Abba Sekira said, the koit nafsho b'kitzire, the leisa kuli alma v'lishayli bach. Pretend that you are not well, right? Pretend that you are sick, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and then put something that smells, that has a foul odor next to you. So the Abba Sekira is coming up with this plan and saying like this: I can't get you out of here to go directly speak with the Romans, but let's see what I can do to help you get onto the other side of the wall. So pretend that you're sick, and everybody's going to say, "Oh, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is sick," and then finally bring something that's so foul smelling and put it next to your bed. The lamer, and people will say, "You must have passed away." And your students should come into your room. Nobody else should be in your room to deal with your quote dead body. No one should be able to feel the kalil that you're really alive because your body weight is still light. The iniyade, everybody knows the chaya, somebody who's alive, kalil b'misa, is lighter than somebody that's dead. So Ovid Hachi, they followed through on the plan. Yochanan Zakeh faked that he was sick. Then he got something smelling, foul smelling, that everybody thought he died. Now his Talmidim said, no, but everybody out of the room. We need to get Rabbi Yochanan out of the city to bury him outside the city. Nichnas boy Rabbi Loza, it's almost like outside the Warsaw Ghetto. Nichnas by Rabbi Loza mitzad Echav, Rabbi Yeshua mitzad Acher. Rabbi Loza came on one side, and Yeshua came on his other side. These were two students. And Kimata lepische, when they got to the door, and the Jews, the Briyonim, were in charge of the door and exiting out of the city. They weren't sure. They wanted to stab the coffin to see if Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is actually dead. Amalahu Sarabba Sikra said to his friends, Yoimru, if we do that, the Romans are going to see that we stabbed our own leader, Rabbi Dakru. They'll see that the Jews are in such a state that they're stabbing their own rabbi, and that's not good. They shouldn't see that we're weak and that we're fighting on the inside. So the people, the guards at the door, at least wanted to shake up the box, because if he was a live person, they wanted to kill him this way to make sure that he's dead. Amalahu. So Abba Sikra said, if you do that, what's going to happen is maybe a limb will come off or something like that, and the Romans are going to say Yomer Rabba the Chafi. When the Romans are going to open the box, they're going to see this whole body that's fell apart. They'll say, this is their rabbi, and they're taking apart their rabbi. So there's interfighting amongst the Jewish people. So we can storm and actually storm the city now. So Paschale, so the Yonim, the Zealots, opened the door. Paschale Baba, they opened the door. Nafak, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, quote unquote, he's pretending to be dead, went out, and with Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshua going to bury him. So as soon as he was out of the city, he arranged a meeting with the chief general Aspasionis Caesar. Amar, he said, Shalom Alach Malka, you are the king now. Hello, the king. Shalom Alach Malka, hello, my king. Amalei, so Aspasionis said to him, you're supposed to be killed twice. Chada de la Malka, I'm not the king. The king is in Rome, in Italy. I'm just a general sieging Jerusalem. The Kokoris le Malka, and you calling me the king? So for that, Yechayev Nisa. And another reason, if I'm indeed the king, why did you tell me I'm the king? If you got a message that the Roman emperor died and I'm his replacement, so what took you so long to get to me? So this is what this general said to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai responded, the fact that you said I am not the king, go to Navava Bebeis. Ibra Malka. The truth is you are the king. You must be the king. And I don't know it because I got a news report. I know it because I learned Tanakh. If you weren't actually the king, Jerusalem wouldn't be given over to your hands. The pasuk says, Lebanon will fall to the majestic. What does that mean? Ein adir elamelech. The word adir means the king. And ksiv v'hoya adir adira mimenu. Ve'ein levonon ela beis hamikdash. Nema hahar hatoy v'zeb alavonon. Beis hamikdash is another nickname for the Beis Hamikdash, which is on top of this good mountain, is called Lebanon because it whitens the Jewish people's sins by allowing for sacrifices. So what the pasuk is saying, B'halavonon, the Beis Hamikdash, Ba'adir will fall to a king. So you can't, if you're not the king, then you can't be in charge of the destruction of Jerusalem. So therefore, I know you're going to be the king. Uda ka'amra, and now that you're saying, if you're asking why if I felt that this news and I wanted to tell you this piece of wisdom that you're going to be the king, then you ask the question, why didn't I come till now to tell you the king? So he said, we have zealots, and they're in charge of who goes out of the walled city, and they didn't let me. But Amalei, so this Aspasionis was still not accepting Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's answer. He said, if you really wanted to meet with me, you had a better way to meet with me. You could just make your own breach in the wall and come out. Amalei, I'll give you an example. You have a barrel of honey, and there's a snake coiled around this barrel of honey, and you want to get to the honey. Wouldn't you break the barrel? The honey spills out, and now the snake slithers away, and you can eat the honey. So Ishtaki became quiet. In other words, what he's saying is that you should have breached the wall. You don't have to go through the main entrance of the wall. You could breach the wall somewhere and come speak to me. What took you so long? Ishtik, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had no answer to that question. Rabbi Yosef said, Rabbi Kiva said that when they recounted this story, they said there was an answer Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai could have told to Aspasionis. But the problem is, sometimes in the situation itself, even great rabbis with great wisdom act foolishly. And there's a pasuk that says, Meishav Chacham Achar, God turns the smart people backwards, the Daitem Isakel, and makes their awareness and intelligence foolish. They could have answered, he could have told the Caesar, the king, Shaklina Tsubasai, the best way to get to the honey in that which the snake that's around the barrel, you take tweezers and you take off the snake, and then you kill the snake so he doesn't come back to the barrel, and then you can keep the barrel. In other words, breaking the wall destroys also the city. So I was waiting to a time where we can get rid of these biryonim and we keep the walls intact, and then I would come out and speak to you. Anyway, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai already expressed to the Caesar, to Aspasionis, that he's going to become the king. So while they're in the middle of this conversation, in the meantime, a messenger came from Rome. He said to Aspasionis, Kum debisle Caesar, the Caesar died. And the Caesar died. So this person arrived from Italy and said, the Caesar just died, but and the Senate of Rome decided to put you as the new emperor. Wow. So he now came from general to emperor. Now he has to return back to Rome. He finished putting on one shoe. He wanted to put on the other shoes. Aspasionis was in the middle of putting on his shoes, and he put on one shoe, and he could not get the other shoe on. It didn't work. He wanted to take off the one shoe that he had on. It didn't come off. So he's stuck now with one shoe on his foot. Now the question, and he heard the good news after he put on the first shoe, before he put on the second shoe. And now this is very strange because these shoes normally fitted him. So he turned to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and says, what's going on with my shoes? So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said to him, don't be upset. Don't get it frustrated that you're not putting on your shoes. You just had good pieces of news. And there's a pasuk that says in Tanakh, the Ksiv, Shmua Toiva Tedashim Etzet. If you hear good news, all of a sudden your bones get bloated, and your feet your bones get bloated, fatten up. And therefore, the second foot became very, very much a little bigger, so you couldn't put on the shoe, and you couldn't take off the shoe that was already on your foot. So you're stuck. Elamai takante. So he asked him, what should I do? I need to get off these shoes or put on another shoe, or put on my second shoe. So he said, Leise inish the loimi let somebody that you don't like pass before you. Somebody you really hate pass before you. The exhibit says in the pasuk, ruach necheya to yavish gara. If you get into a frustrated or depressed spirit, that will dry out your bones. And therefore, get depressed a little bit, and then, so to speak, you'll be able to get your shoes on properly. Alvin Hachi, he did so. Ayel, the second shoe came on. Amalei Aspasionis said to him, I see you so wisdom. You told me that I'm going to be the king. You told me how to get my shoes on. I still can't figure out. You're so smart. Why you couldn't come to me until now? I would have loved to meet you earlier. Prior, it's been 3 years since I started the siege. Amrele, so Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai said, Loi amari lach, didn't I tell you? Amrele, ano nami amri lach, but I told you the way you should have came to me. You should have figured out a way how to come to me. lay. So he said like this. Specionis tells Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Meizal Zilna, I have to go back to Rome. But I'm keeping up with this campaign because it seems that they had little control over the Senate. Once it was decided that Jerusalem was going to get destroyed, even the new Caesar could not change that. But I'm going to send another general. But he wanted to show how much he respected Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. So he said to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Ela boy minech midei, ask me something, that the loch I will give you. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, instead of asking the big thing, he decided to ask for three small things. He said, Amalei, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, Tainli Yavna v'chachamel, spare the city of Yavna, and have that place, even after the destruction of the temple, that the Chachamim should come, be able to learn Torah. There should be a place that that people could come to learn Torah even after the destruction of the base of Mikdash. And he said, the Rabbi Gamliel, and keep the chain of Rabbi Gamliel. Don't kill out this family of Rabbi Gamliel. It was a president's family going back to David HaMelech, and therefore that family should remain intact. And I want a doctor to heal Rabbi Tzadok. And so that was the three requests. Now, Rabbi Kiva commented about this story. Some say it was Rabbi Yosef, that sometimes God makes Chachamim turns back their knowledge and makes them foolish. If you have one request from the king, you should sail him let it go this time. In other words, spare Jerusalem. Don't destroy the base of Mikdash. But what was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai thinking? He thought he's not going to do that big of a request. So you're not going to be able to get the small requests that you have. So he said, I'm better off asking these small requests. Again, I need Yavna should be spared. The city of Yavna should be spared, so it's a place of learning. The family of Rabbi Gamliel should remain intact, and I need a doctor to heal Rabbi Tzadok. Now, the Gemara interjects, how did the doctors heal Rabbi Tzadok? Rabbi Tzadok fasted for 40 years, and they had to bring him back to health, nurse him back to health. So for some reason, the Gemara brings this interesting remedy that the doctors gave him. What was the remedy that they gave to Rabbi Tzadok to heal himself? So, Yom Kama, during the first period, Ashkiu Mai Depari, they gave him bran water. Lamachar, the next day, the next period, Maya de Sipuke, they would add water of bran flour. Lamachar, Maya de Kimcha, then they would give him water mixed in with flour. So more bran flour, then water mixed with bran flour, and then water mixed with flour. Basically, it was sort of to build up his stomach, till his stomach expanded little by little. You can't, put too much food down somebody who has a shrunken stomach, because you could kill the person. So they sort of expanded his stomach by giving him very high fiber type of foods that little by little expanded his stomach, so that Rabbi Tzadok was able to nurse himself back to health to be able to eat normally. One more piece, and then we'll stop. So Aspasianus came the king, and so he had a general to take over his job, whose name was Titus. And he said like this, the pasuk says, where's God? The Tzur Chasoy Boy, the rock that we used to take refuge in him. There was such a Titus blasphemized God. So to speak, he blasphemized God. Also, what did he do when during the destruction of the base of Mikdash? Tava Zoina. He grabbed a whore, biyadai, in his hand. The nichlas base kodesh kadashim, and he went to the holy of holies. Vitzias sefer Torah. He spread a whole sefer Torah. Va'avar le'avera, and sinned with that lady, right in the kodesh kadashim, on top of a sefer Torah. But not the saif. And then he took a sword, bigider seproiches, and he stabbed the curtains. Nasanes. because during the first base of English, during the second base of English, there was two curtains there, that separated the Kodesh Kodashim from the Heichal, from the Kodesh. The first base of English actually had a wall. Second base of English had these curtains. If you remember from the picture of Yom Kippur, how the Kohen Gadol would walk in between the two curtains. Anyway, he stabbed this curtain, the nasa nace, and then a nace happened. Blood started spurting out from this, spilling out from this curtain. And he thought Haragas Atma, he just killed God. Why is blood coming out from a stabbed curtain? Shnema shagot zarecha b'kerev moyadecha samam oisu sayim ois. They saw your signs as their signs. He interpreted this sign that God was making, that, so to speak, that God was, so to speak, dead. Abba Chanan says another pasuk, who is like you, who's like stone-faced, so to speak. Who's so stone and strong like God. You hear your insults and curses. Why is God silent when a Russia can do such a thing? Abba Chanan say, Abba Chanan we did that. The Bein Reb Shmuel Tanam Bein Reb Shmuel says, Mi chamoicha be'elim Hashem, mi chamoicha ba'ilmin. Who is like you amongst the powerful ones? We darshan, who is like you, ba'ilmin, as silent. Sometimes these Rishonim can do the most craziest, blasphemous thing, and God is silent. But that is also a sign of power of God. So Be'ez Hashem will continue with the story tomorrow.